Sonny, how are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, all good, thanks.
Good. Thanks for your time. Let's start with the obvious one, Jack Ashworth. You're appealing the 3-game ban?
Yeah, we are. Yeah. I don't want to say too much about it before it's heard, but it's quite severe. I think when we all us coaches and players, when we heard about lowering of the tackle height, and I think we've all bought in. I think the intention is there to do that, but I think there always needs to be an understanding of accidents and when they happen and how they can happen, but also some tolerance from within the sport and in regard to changing of techniques and how quick we can do that, and I think that's probably been the questionable part about it, Listen, I saw an accident there the other day that, fair enough, if they want a sin bin and when I screw my nose up about that, a sin binning can affect the outcome of a game. And I think, that's enough sometimes with some of the incidents that we've seen. That's enough, the outcome of the game. But, the stress and playing stress and physical stress it puts on the rest of the players is enormous, when we're talking about welfare of players as well. And they're more likely to get more fatigued and put their heads in the wrong spots and push their bodies into areas that they wouldn't normally go to, because of some of the sin binnings that we're getting. But nevertheless, I was thinking that we're going to try and lower the tackling target of all our players, and I think we've done that to a whole lot of cases. But then to possibly determine the outcome of games for the next 3 weeks afterwards, I think it's a bit too severe for us. I just think we underestimate how much a sin bin or a send-off the impact that it has on teams and players and coaches, If we just have a 10-minute sin bin and it's for something that we can rectify through technique, we're going to work hard on it because we need 13 on the park. We know as good as any team at the moment, we need 13 on the park, to compete. So we're going to work our socks off to not have those sort of penalties that cost us sin bins or send-offs.
How confident are you in the case that you're presenting tonight? And off the back of that, are you confident enough that it could change the whole verdict, or are you just looking for a reduction?
I don't know. Once again, I really don't know. And I'm not. I don't make predictions, and I'm not a person that makes those sort of predictions. We'll wait and see. We feel that we need to go in there and represent Jack, and we hope he gets a fair hearing.
Does it make it tougher to take when you look at Benjamin Garcia's hit going unpunished on Lewis Martin?
I think, without singling out any other particular, there's a number over the weekend that we could probably look at and go either similar or worse. That's the problem. I see another couple of coaches, whether we're moaning about it, I don't know. We're trying to support the whole system. We're trying to support it, but I think there's been some inconsistencies in trying to implement some of this, and we're trying to fix things. We're trying to buy in, but there are some things that make you scratch your head, and and I think it's been difficult for us as coaches and also players to understand sometimes, and supporters, and I think they're very crucial in all this. If they're not quite getting it and understanding, as to why certain things happen in certain ways, they start to question the integrity, and I hate that. I hate that when we get to a point when we're questioning the integrity of our sport, and The sooner we can get away from those sort of things, the better.
Away from that side of it, you suffered a few injuries as well. As far as Matty Russell, you said Tom Peck on Saturday. Any change? Is that been confirmed as far as that being the problem?
I can't tell you the grading of it, but he's damaged his pec, and he's back at Warrington with their medical staff. We're very, very sorry that he's gone back with an injury, and that wasn't the intention. He was here to play himself into form so he could go back and play for his parent club. So, we're disappointed for Matty. We're disappointed for Warrington. We're grateful for them to loan Matty to us, but it's part of our sport sometimes that doesn't always go as planned. But
what's the update on Jack Walker and Danny Houghton's hamstrings?
Yeah, Jack will be a number of weeks. He'll be minimum of 4, I'd say. So it's a significant strain to his hamstring. For Denny, better news. Scan pretty good. He put it this way. We'll name him in our squad for this week. So if he makes it, that's a bonus. But yeah, there's no significant tear there. So Denny should be right to go.
Any other fresh ones we're not aware of?
We got Sutcliffe coming back from suspension, and Frank back from suspension. So aside from that, maybe Liam Tyndall. We'll check on Liam Tyndall. Maybe Cameron Scott. We'll check on Cameron Scott. There's maybe some options of a few. Yeah,
you said about Franklin back from suspension, but he's had hand surgery, I've seen. How's that affected him, and is he still good to go this weekend if you need him?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe his suspension is over, so that's a question for us and Frank to assess. And at present, I'd suggest that we'll probably pick him in our 21 and make a decision late in the week.
Cup draw's been made. Huddersfield away. Give us your reaction to that.
Tough game. Good team at their place. Everybody wants a home game, but not to be. Haven't put a lot of thought into it, to be honest with you. Saw the draw, and no matter who you draw in what division, in that cup draw, it's going to be a tough match. So Huddersfield at Huddersfield is as good as any other match that you were going to get drawn in. So we'll turn our focus to them next week, but we're far from that at the moment. It is all about Leigh this week, and it's been all about learning the lessons from Catalans and then focus on Leigh.
And I'll ask you a little bit about Leigh specifically in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Just on the cup one, as we speak, mid-afternoon Tuesday, we're expecting there'll be some announcement sometime today. Any indication of when you might be playing that?
No idea. Absolutely, I'm as much in the dark as you are in that respect. So no idea. And hopefully it's at a good time of the weekend. We'll make those adjustments when we know.
By the time this goes out, we'll probably know anyway by then. I thought I'd just ask just in case.
Sure.
You spoke last week about the effort being negated by discipline and errors and things like that. How tough are you making it on yourself at the moment?
Yeah, at times. Yeah, I didn't think our error rate was high on the weekend. I didn't think in those conditions, because I'll tell you, the conditions were tough. It was wet, and the field was heavy. Not as bad as some I see throughout the UK at the moment, but we had a significant amount of rain before we played Catalan. So, there were a couple of handling errors in the ruck area, and from both teams, but we didn't push it too much. I didn't think. So it wasn't as much the errors this week as the penalties letting our opponents out of their own 40. You know, those releases of pressure. And we've still got a couple of those where we're either not square at marker or we're a little high with our tackle tech or just not quite, or we're holding down a little long there. We've got to get rid of those. Once we get rid of those, it'll make us very much more competitive. You know, for 60 minutes we were in a really good arm wrestle with those guys, and you know, with a little bit more smarts at different stages, we had some opportunities to maybe even go ahead, and that was on the back of some of those pressure releases that I'm talking about. So if we could just cut out a few of those or a number of those, makes us a much more competitive team. Now, they're questionably the hardest team to go and visit and get wins. You know, it's a tough trip. We gave ourselves a shot for a fair while of that. You know, so we've got to learn that we've got to remove some of those things that are hurting us, and when we do that, we'll come away from some of those sort of places maybe with, you know, a bigger smile on our face than not.
Can I ask you about Darnell McIntosh and his performance? How much of a leadership quality did he show?
Yeah, Darns has stepped up in, you know, he's stepping up. He's showing some of his versatility, having played in the centres and, you know, and wing as well. But, you know, he keeps saying he can play fullback as well, and he's done that on different occasions. So he's got some versatility, but yeah, he's certainly developed his confidence over the last 12 months, in particular, and you know, he's becoming more vocal within the team and sees himself as one of the more mature players, and he is. You know, he's been around for a while. He's very experienced, and it's important for him to pass on some of that experience and wisdom and learning that he's had over the years to the younger guys. So, yeah, I think he's stepped up and he's doing a really good job.
Backing up a season like you have the year before, in this case with what Leigh did last year, is always the difficult thing because the expectation goes through the roof after that. What have you made of their start to the season, first few games? Tough.
It's a tough league, you know, it's tough and tough to get it all right, and it's close, and it's, you know, it's been testing, you know, in all sorts of reasons, and it's, you know, you can't just look at just the outcomes. You've got to look a little deeper than that to work out why, you know, and when teams have scored their points, you know, doing reviews and previewing of opposition teams now, you know, some of the time you're watching 12 men and you're trying to guess how they're going to play. You know, the footage is, you know, we're seeing teams get beaten because they're down to 12 men at times or 11, and, you know, it's difficult. We're also, you know, seeing some new faces because we're getting suspensions. We've also, you know, seen some new faces because of injury as well. But, you know, squads are getting tested at the moment, and so yeah, it's hard to predict other teams. But you know, Leigh will be fine. Leigh have got some really quality players, and when they get their best players on the park, they'll be formidable. And again, and they are now. But you know, I think most teams are like that. You put your best 13 or 17 out. You know, I think everybody's pretty competitive with one another. It's just being able to, you know, do that either through injury or through suspension now. It's a real big test. And throughout this season, I think we're going to see a lot of new faces, and I think we're going to have to rely on our backup players, and I think we're going to have a lot of young players playing the game, whether they're ready for it or not.
We're up to Frank, what was the actual issue then? Was it picked up in pre-season, or was it picked up in the derby, or was it a bit of both?
Oh, a bit of both. He's had a little finger problem, and he has had an operation on it. So he's possibly a chance for this week. So, but yeah, he's had to have a minor operation on it in order to help it function more effectively. But we'll assess whether that's right enough for him to participate this week. But all I can say is he's very, very keen to.
That's the rugby league player, isn't it? If his finger was falling off, he'd want to play.
Yeah, most of them. Not all of them are the same in that respect, but Frank certainly is. I think, if his finger was fallen off, he'd pick it up and put it back on and away you go. I think that's how he'd go about it. Yeah.
So possibly, so there is an outside chance then that he won't play on Saturday?
Outside or inside, either one. No, I'm playing with words here. But yeah, he's a possibility for this week.
I'm just conscious of when you told me about Liam Tyndall and obviously the risk of infection. I'm just asking the question because it's only 3 weeks in it since the operation, so there's no risk of that, or is that something you've still got to determine?
Yeah, all those things have got to be taken into account. So we'll see. That's why we haven't made a decision whether it's an outside chance or whether inside chance. We haven't made that decision, and we'll weigh those things up. Yeah, by the time we have to announce a squad, at least.
Good stuff. Obviously, loan market, Super League clubs, we understand the circling now. Obviously, that market's getting more intensified this week. Is it something you're interested in, or are you happy with what you've got?
Very, very grateful for what we've delved into the loan market, and very grateful to Warrington for loaning us 2 players at a time when we desperately needed them. We will keep on the lookout, of course we will, and we needed a bit of experience at that point in time. All I'll say is, if we got too many of our experienced players out and we need some more experienced players, we'd look for some more experienced players. But if we got some young guys there who can handle the job and we haven't got too many of them at once, we'll use the young guys, and some of our players that are there and have been with us and in our systems. I don't think any of us got any hesitation in using our young guys. It's just how many at one time is good for them or right for them. So, with some of the names that I've mentioned about returning to play this week, either from injury or suspension, I don't see as much necessity to go and explore the loan market at the moment.
Cheers for that. And obviously, Leigh, they're winless this season. Obviously, they're fighting similar circumstances to Hull in some respects. Obviously, they've lost some key players in Pape, Lamb's a doubt this week, so Tom Briscoe. So, sort of like similar situation to you in terms of just rolling up the sleeves and having to get on with the hand at the first.
Yeah, and that's the challenge of Super League, and I think they kept most of their good players on the park last year, and that was a big part of why they had a big season. It is so crucial, having your star players about and fit and healthy or non-suspended. It's a big help to your campaign, and they've had a few testing times already this season, and as we have. But I think it's a bit of the sign of the times as well. I think there's plenty more of those sort of things to come, hopefully for other teams rather than ourselves. But hopefully we're having our period now. But it's I'm also going to say they're a good team, and they'll be tough this weekend, no matter who they've got. Who they've got in their team. They've got some quality players and some experienced players, and they play some intelligent rugby league. So they're going to be a big test for us, and hopefully we can be a tester for them as well. I'd like to think we're we showed some improvement last week in our performance, and against a quality team and on the road, and and I like to think that we're getting a bit more about us. So hopefully it'll make for a good match.
Lewis Martin got a couple of huge hits towards the end of the Catalans game. I mean, there's been I know you don't do socials, but there's been a video circulating of a Ben Garcia challenge where he's literally shoulder goes straight into his chin. I mean, just share any frustration there as a head coach that got picked up, yet here we are with Jack Ashworth 3-game ban.
Yeah, yes and no. I think you can find plenty of those sort of incidents. Our young bloke there, Lewis, jumps up, and gets and listen. Chris got up, Sate the other day, and tried to get on with it too. So it wasn't like he stayed down there. But I have seen some that in that region, if they get hit in that region, they'll stay down to a certain degree, and that's not Lewis. Lewis is plays by the book, and but whether that gets handled in the same way, I think is more down to outcomes or health outcomes, and whether that should be the case, I'm not sure. But that's where some of the controversy kicks in, and makes it hard for the bloke on the street to understand as well. But I'm not moaning about it. It's just and I don't think a lot of people are moaning about it. I just think they're raising the question of how come this is this way and this is another way. A wise man once told me that controversy is always good for our sport, and I'm not sure it is, but it gets people talking, I suppose.
Yeah, like you're not in this sense. The point you just made there is pretty concerning. It's sort of saying that if you stay down now, the decision will get looked at. Obviously, every team is televised, so the video referee will be looking at it. But if you just get up and play the ball, even though you've just caught one, unless your naked eye is literally on that incident, it's going to get overlooked.
For sure. Yeah, and there's people who know that. Yeah. There's smart players, and and players who will play for it. That's why I think there's some desire anyway for the green card, the injured bin to come into place. I think there's for those who want to stay down on the ground, whether it's a genuine hit or not, they should go off the park for 3 minutes, in 2 or 3 minutes, and get assessed properly. If they're genuinely injured, that's a good period of time for the medicos to make assessments of them. If they're not genuinely injured, that 2 minutes might be a little fairer for the team that has suffered either a penalty or a sin binning or a send off, and it means that players will have to think about whether they feign injury or not. And I'm saying that goes for all of them. Genuine injury or feigned injury, all should have to go and get checked on the sideline. If the game is going to be stopped for any injured player, minimum 2 minutes on the sideline for mine.
Do you worry about that sort of player acting going into the game, or is it?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
A big concern, or?
Of course it is. We've been known as a gladiatorial sport. And we've been known for our toughness. We've been known for us getting on with things, and that's why people come along and watch. They admire the toughness of our players, and that they don't wear padding like some other sports, and they don't roll around looking for penalties on the ground like some other sports. Sorry, Steve. That's one of the beauties and the appeals of it, and we've got to keep hold of that. We've got to protect it, and we're the ones who leave legacies behind, and if we're creating a sport where the legacy is that we have players feigning injury or laying down for somebody to get penalised, gamesmanship in that respect, I think we're losing it, and I think we'll lose some of the appeal to our sport if we go down that route.
I asked this question to Jordan Leigh, but I'll ask the same one to you. So, Jack Ashworth on Saturday, he could see him pleading his case. I spoke to him after the game as well. He's bent his back, in his opinion, the best he can. He's dipped, he's tried to wrap. What can he do differently there to avoid that outcome?
Keep working on it, and you know we're going to keep working on everybody's techniques, and you know I think the ultimate outcome is that we all tackle lower more regularly and are in control of where we make contact. But just the period of time that we've been given to do that, I think is unrealistic. I really do. I just think it's unrealistic. I even see that Jack has made some of those adjustments that I would have been happy with, you know, to say, well, he has bent his knees and he's bending his hips and he is, you know, going in lower with his arms, but his head still sits on his shoulders, above it, his shoulders. So it's hard to get rid of your head below your shoulders. It's a difficult thing to do. And so, you know, even if my tackling target is around the chest, my head is still going to sit above it. You know, it's going to be difficult to get how low we have to get and what's practical. So.
Sort of going the way where you're going to get 5'8" props as the way forward.
Well, I said a few years ago, I think our sport could do with losing a couple of players off the park. You know, we're fitter and stronger and faster nowadays. I didn't know it was going to happen to my team only when I made that suggestion about reducing the number of players on the park. I think I meant it for both teams. It would be better. We're not quite fitter and faster and strong enough to be able to cope with being a man down on our opponents yet. But, you know, maybe that day will come.